Hello and welcome to Treasury 360 with me, Kojo Arthur. Today we'll be looking at the repo market and how it's about to evolve. Now, this evolution of the repo market in Ghana is largely hinged on the launching of the guidelines for the Global Master Repurchase Agreement that was done a few days ago. Now, the repo market is a place where banks go in for short-term, cheap financing. And banks with excess liquidity also look to invest in the repo market for some returns over the short term whilst they look for other business. Now, I have a video explaining the mechanics of the repo. You should see that video. This video is going to be about the current state of the repo market and how it's about to evolve. So how does the repo market work in Ghana? In Ghana, the Central Securities Depository manages the repo market in a way that it controls the movement of bonds as well as the movement of cash. So in Ghana, we have the CSD, sitting in the middle, and we have a bank A, and a bank B looking to do a repo. Now, CSD sits in the middle and ensures that settlement is guaranteed for bank A and for bank B. So CSD has a link to the bank account, the central bank account of these two banks, and so bank A CSD will ensure bank A has bonds to settle this repo, bonds that it will transfer to bank B. So CSD takes bonds from bank A and moves it to bank B. Then Bank B's account with Central Bank will be debited by CSD and transferred to Bank A. So this is cash. So in Ghana, the bonds and cash are transacted through Central Securities Depository. Now, so if Bank A wanted to not pay the bonds, CSD will ensure that the cash doesn't flow to Bank A, and vice versa. If Bank B doesn't have the cash, CSD will ensure that the bonds don't get to Bank B. It's the same way upon maturity. When the repo has matured, CSD will ensure that Bank A has the cash before it returns the bond back to Bank A and delivers the cash plus the interest to Bank B. So CSD sits in the middle and serves as a guide or a security to make sure that everybody performs under the repo arrangement. Now, so this system makes sure that there is no settlement risk for the repurchase agreement. So settlement risk is fine. So now we are looking at what can Bank B do with the bonds. So CSD's transfer of bonds from Bank A to Bank B is what we call a conditional transfer. Now, a conditional transfer ensures that when there are any cash payments on the bond, so the conditional transfer has to do with the bonds, okay? So the bonds originally belonged to Bank A. A conditional transfer ensures that when coupon payments happen on the bond, it doesn't go to Bank B, but sits with Bank A. Bank B is merely just holding the bonds that originally belonged to Bank A for the period in which this repo transaction is working or is in effect. Okay, so conditional transfer ensures that Bank A sits with the risk of the bond issuer, which may be the central government, not paying the coupons on the bond. So the risk is with Bank A. The rewards, which is the coupon payments, is also with Bank A. However, Bank B is conditionally holding the bonds for the period of the repo. All right, so the first point is the risk to reward of the bonds stay with the original owner of the bond. All right, so in this repo, currently in the Ghanaian market, the repo that a Bank A will do with a Bank B, where Bank A transfers bonds to Bank B, the risk and the reward of the bond stay with Bank A. Bank B is merely holding the bond as a security for the cash it lends to Bank A. All right, so conditional transfer, risk and reward sit here. And this is an important part of a repurchase agreement, because a repurchase agreement, by definition, doesn't transfer risk and reward to the bond, to the party that is lending the cash. The party that is lending the cash only holds the bond for the period of the repo to make sure that when party A performs by returning cash plus interest, party B now returns the bonds. Okay. So the next aspect of this is, what can Bank B do with the bonds so long as it holds it? In our current system, Bank B cannot transact, it cannot sell this bond, it cannot repo this bond onward to another bank, and so it just sits with the bond. However, concerning repos, that's my cat. Concerning repos, Bank B is supposed to be able to trade this bond. However, have it back in time to return the same bond or its equivalent, we'll get into that, to Bank A. So a shortcoming of our system that we run here in Ghana is that because of conditional transfer, Bank B is not able to sell or transact with the bonds that it has based on the repo. Okay, so problem number one. That bonds on repo cannot be traded. So Bank A's bonds with Bank B cannot be traded under any circumstances because it's a conditional transfer. So that's a problem number one. Okay. Now upon maturity, Bank A will receive its bonds back through CSD, and Bank B will receive its cash back through CSD. So settlement is guaranteed. But what happens when Bank A goes kaput? So Bank A goes kaput, goes belly up, Bank A collapses. It means that the bonds are sitting under conditional transfer with Bank B, and Bank B cannot trade the bonds. So bonds on repo cannot be traded. That's the first problem with how we are running our repo market currently. So in the instance where Bank A is no longer in existence, Bank B has to now speak to the receiver for Bank A as to rights of sell off on the bonds it's holding. All right. So the second problem is bonds cannot be traded, and then upon collapse of Bank A, there becomes legal issues on trading the security. Okay, so we have two main problems with our repo market. First problem, bonds on repo cannot be traded. So because of conditional transfer, Bank B cannot trade or transact with the bonds. And upon collapse of Bank A, there will be legal issues that Bank B will have to resolve in order to have ownership of the bonds. So two major problems of our repo market, and this was highlighted upon the collapse of several banks during the banking sector cleanup. All right, so this is the state of affairs. Now, if we are going to adopt the Global Master Repurchase Agreement, these issues were going to have to be resolved. And so what does the Global Master Repurchase Agreement, how does it resolve this? Now, so the GMRA the first thing the GMRA does is to transfer legal rights to Bank B. So number one, legal rights transfer. So we no longer have conditional transfer. Bank B now has legal rights over the bonds that has been repoed to it. Legal rights means Bank B should be able to trade with the bonds. All right. So if Bank B can trade with the bond, upon the collapse of Bank A, Bank B can now sell off the bonds. So the Global Master Agreement is an agreement between the two banks. They sign a GMRA to enable Bank B have legal rights on the transferred bonds to it, and also legal rights to sell off the bonds when Bank B has collapsed. Now, this is one of the changes, or a very important change in how repos are operating in the country. So in Ghana, we are adopting the Global Master Repurchase Agreement to help sanitize our repo markets, to help increase liquidity and access to cheap funds on banks that need to borrow, and also to aid in the legal rights transfer of securities in a repo transaction. So in conclusion, the GMRA type repos are going to transfer legal rights to Bank B and give it a right of sell-off upon the collapse or upon Bank A's inability to transfer back the cash plus interest. Now this will give rise to what we call margining, which means that during the life of the repo, should the bonds not be equivalent to the cash plus interest, Bank B is mandated to collect more bonds to make up for the difference in the value of the cash and the bonds. Okay, I'll say that again. Now, there's a legal right of transfer to Bank B for the cash it has transferred to Bank A through CSD. For the bonds to be equivalent to principal plus interest, there has to be what it's called margining. Margining is that when the price of the bonds drop, which means that the value goes down, Bank A would have to transfer more bonds to Bank B to make up for the value. So one new thing in the Ghanaian market will be margining for repos. The second thing is that once legal transfer has been moved to Bank B, now the rewards, which are the coupon payments, are going to flow from CSD to Bank B. Upon receipt of these coupons, Bank B is mandated by the agreement to transfer the same coupons back to Bank A so that Bank A still enjoys the rewards. Okay? So, upon adoption of GMRA, there are going to be some changes as well, and I'm only highlighting a few of these changes. Maybe in subsequent videos, I'll take other changes and we'll look at them and explain them. But for now, we're looking at margining as a result of adopting the GMRA, as well as the transfer of coupons from Bank B to Bank A during the life of the repo, when Central Securities Depository transfer the coupons to Bank B.